Okay, so comp book. Today's date is March 8th. So right beneath March 8th, go ahead and record the two targets right up on the screen here. I'm going to pass around a set of sticky notes. I need you to take one from the stack and then just pass it around. So you should have, if you don't already, your comp book, your night packet, so with those worksheets, with the rubric and the worksheets, and then your copy of the text. If you don't have all those things, like Sean's got his copy of the text and his comp book, he's reaching for that night packet. Look in the folder on the desk and see if there's a packet in there for you guys. Here's the bookmark. When you record those dates, you're going to change it differently. Okay, look to another folder then. Who else? Oh, Cody. Here's a bookmark, but modify it based upon your bookmark because the dates are different. And Josh, here's a bookmark for the reading.
Okay.
But modify it.
What do you want me to do?
We'll figure it out. I know it's kind of frustrating. I'd give you my copy, but I think it's at home too, Josh. All right, my copy's at home. Otherwise, I'd give it to you. All right, so the two targets today you should have written down. And again, just let me repeat what I asked for you to get out. So you've got your copy of night. We have 3 people that were out. So those 3 people I gave them a little bookmark and asked them to modify the pace of the reading right on that sheet. So it's different. So Cody, Josh, and Emma, make sure you ask for someone's bookmark so you can write down the pacing of it. You've got the packet right here. What's all that? Nice. So your packet of lots of different things that we'll be doing with night as we study, okay, the text, and then you also have your text itself. We are 2 books short up in the library when the 3 went up. So Josh and Cody, did you get a text or not?
I did.
You did, so it's Emma and Josh that are, okay. So we'll do something. We'll try and get a text to you as soon as possible. That someone left it, so, but maybe you could use it during class time, maybe? Yeah. So will you give that one just pass it down to Josh? Do you want all of this or not? This is like, okay. But I started this. It's fine. You'll cut it out. All right. So as you guys have been in first semester, my classes be at 3rd or 4th, and also Milam's. We are secondary mentors for the district, and they are videotaping lessons that we've done. So today, obviously, they're videotaping the progression of the plan today with night. Okay? So just act normal, like I will as well, as we go through. And it's just like we always do. All right, so in your comp book, you've got today's date. You've got 2 targets, the 2 targets up there. So discuss anti-Semitism, and then using multiple texts related to World War II and the Holocaust, note observations, and make inferences about the information by citing textual evidence. Okay, so there's a couple things. So today is not the very first time that we've interacted with the text night. It's the beginning. Okay, you guys got a copy of the book on Monday, did a little bit of reading, because I couldn't check those books out to you because the librarian was sick. So pretty much one day, okay, we've been working with the text and different things. So if we go to those learning targets, we've done a little bit with anti-Semitism. We're going to continue working with anti-Semitism throughout the entire month, okay, all the way up to spring break as we study the text. And then today we're going to do something called observational charting, where I've got the butcher paper and a lot of different texts that you're going to use to build up more background knowledge for World War II and the Holocaust, and or maybe verify information that you are wondering about. So the first target up here is not brand new. Okay, we've been talking about it, except for the 3 students who were absent on Tuesday. When I say discuss anti-Semitism, who can tell me the definition of anti-Semitism? Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got to wait because we did this the other day, and I'm like, oh, that makes me super sad if not more of you can do that. Look through your book if you're like, oh, I'm not really sure. And Josh, Emma, and Cody, if you write the word anti-Semitism down underneath the targets. All right, now who? Good. I feel better now. Okay, Aaron, give me the definition. Yes. Okay, so the hatred for people who practice the Jewish religion. So Cody, Josh, and Emma, please write that down. So today we're going to be working more with anti-Semitism, okay, as it manifested itself during World War II and the Holocaust, but we're also bringing it to contemporary times. So I want to make sure that you guys know it wasn't just isolated during that time period and everything's wonderful now. In fact, we started listening to an audio clip the other day that we're going to listen to again and take some notes and discuss that as well. And then if you look at the second learning target, using multiple texts. Preston, Cameron, can you get your attention up here? Using multiple texts related to World War II and the Holocaust, note observations and make inferences about the information by citing textual evidence. What does that mean? Good, I've got 1. Keep thinking. 2, 3. Let's wait for 8 people. I don't think that's super complicated. I'm just asking you, what does it mean? Saxon's like, oh, okay, I could do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. What does that mean, that second learning target? Second row, oh my gosh, second row has no clue. No idea. Second row, come on, look at that. Using multiple texts related to World War II and the Holocaust, note observations and make inferences about the information by citing textual evidence. So second row, keep thinking. Oh, good, we've got someone from the first row. A couple in the back, good. This row, this is the second row, someone's got to represent there. There's like Sean of all, yes, absolutely. Okay, so let's go with Cassidy. Go ahead and tell me what that second learning target is.
So like you're talking about how we're gonna go around like going to specific things. So I'm thinking like it's gonna be like how we're gonna take notes on like what we're learning, like seeing, and then like citing by using like authors' names.
And I also have up there make inferences. Okay, so hold tight. Chandler, Chase, what's make inferences?
To make like what does it mean to make inferences? It's like an educated guess on like a certain topic or subject.
Good. So you're going to have, there's 17 different stations. You're going to look at material related to World War II or the Holocaust. That material right there. You're going to make some observations with your partner in your comp book. Then you're going to make some inferences about the time period maybe, about Elie Wiesel, depending on the information that you have at that particular station. We will not completely finish in one period the observation stations because there's a couple things that I'm adding at the beginning that relate to what we started on Tuesday. So we'll continue with this next week on Tuesday. So questions about the 2 targets up here? All right, so now let's go to, the other day I started with this audio clip, and I asked you to take notes in your comp book as if I were going to ask you to write a summary. So if you were here, go to that section in your comp book so you can just add on to that information. As if I were going to ask you to write a summary. Okay, so you've got some notes. So Bailey, what kind of things do you were here the other day, right? So what do you currently have written down?
I have what Shannon was. So like showing is like crucial information being shared about other people and negativity towards him or her.
Good. So you're kind of, it sounds like doing the who, what, where, when, and why of the particular audio clip. What additional information should you have?
Like tags.
The tags. Okay, so Taylor, what's tags mean? And what's the S? Subject. Title, author, genre, subject. So Josh, Emma, and Cody, You're recording the title, author, genre, and subject. We did not hear the entire clip. It's 7 minutes. Okay, so we're going to start from the beginning for those 3 as well as to refresh your memory. Then after we are going to discuss it. Okay, so any questions before I hit play? All right, here we go. So you're just adding, for most of you, you're just adding on to your notes, just like Bailey said, the who, what, where, when, and why.
About a year ago, there was a reported argument that began between a local realtor and Richard Spencer's mom. It was over a building Sherry Spencer owns in Whitefish, which was becoming the focus of a potential protest against her son.
No, I think that it didn't start from the beginning, right?
The realtor is Jewish, and local news storm against Jews in Whitefish.
Close.
Wait a second, whites. We're going to hear now
There we go.
what it's like to be trolled by white supremacists, and also how hard it is for victims to do anything about it. NPR's Kirk Sigler takes us to Whitefish, Montana. That is where neo-Nazis have aimed what they call a troll storm at Jewish residents. And we should note this story has some language that could be offensive to listeners.
What is trolling? For Rabbi Francine Rostin, her personal information got published online, her phone number, address, the barrage of harassing emails and Facebook posts.
The messages were very frequently Holocaust themed. We're going to destroy you, your people should have been destroyed, you should destroy yourself, you should go jump in an oven, we're going to come cremate you.
Her voice starts to shake when she talks about it. Once an anonymous troller even posted that her 2 kids had better watch out.
And a few comments later, someone said the name of my son, and, you know.
Rostin is the rabbi of Glacier Jewish Community, a synagogue without walls, as she puts it, that serves Whitefish and the surrounding Flathead Valley.
I understand free speech, but imagery directed towards Jews because they're Jews relating to the Holocaust, the message there is, we want you dead.
Well, this trolling was promoted by a well-known white supremacist from Ohio by the name of Andrew Anglin. He's the publisher of a neo-Nazi website called the Daily Stormer. In articles on his website, he called for a troll storm against Jews in Whitefish. He also planned a march through the streets of town on Martin Luther King Day last year and told people to bring their guns.
At the core of Anglin's campaign was an old story of Jewish hatred, that the Jews were taking over this pristine white town of Whitefish and driving out the whites.
The Jewish community in the resort town of Whitefish is tiny. Rostin took the threat seriously. The police chief told me they couldn't do a whole lot at the time because these trollers were mostly anonymous and they weren't showing up at her door threatening imminent violence. So they said, go dark, don't engage.
Right. If you saw, we have a security system around the house that we never had.
The police believe most of the trollers were coming from outside Whitefish, but Rostin wasn't taking any chances. The local rabbi, a progressive social justice activist, bought a gun.
I had a friend fly out and train me in handguns, and I purchased my first handguns. I wanted to make sure that I could protect myself and protect my family.
That planned march never happened. Anglin and the Nazis didn't show. Whitefish staged its own anti-hate rally in the freezing cold. Now, this kind of trolling has happened elsewhere for sure, but the events in Whitefish are noteworthy because of the timing and who was involved and how vicious it got. There's a lot of arguing over who's to blame, but pretty much everyone in this resort town at the doorstep to Glacier National Park says one person is at the heart of this controversy.
Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory!
That's the white nationalist Richard Spencer speaking in 2016. He lives in Whitefish part-time. Locals say he's brought unwanted attention to this liberal-leaning pocket of Montana. About a year ago, there was a reported argument that began between a local realtor and Richard Spencer's mom. It was over a building Sherry Spencer owns in Whitefish, which was becoming the focus of a potential protest against her son. The realtor is Jewish, and local news reports about the dispute got the attention of Andrew Anglin, who called on his neo-Nazi followers to come to the defense of the Spencers. That Jewish realtor is now suing Andrew Anglin over his troll storm with the help of the Southern Poverty Law Center. She's not giving interviews, but her local attorney, John Morrison, is.
These are not informational, opinion, or any other kind of protected First Amendment communications. These are assaults.
Montana and the Flathead Valley around Whitefish in particular has long been a haven for extremism.
In 1988, the state passed a strict anti-intimidation law, which Morrison says the trolling violated. But where is the line between protected speech and a clear threat of violence, like an alleged verbal assault? The courts have generally said speech doesn't become illegal unless a threat is imminent. Mark Randazza, a prominent First Amendment attorney, says this is hard to prove, and it should be.
Okay, so we're about 4 minutes in. It's a 7-minute clip, and I'm seeing people starting to add on to their notes. Okay, so for the 3 that weren't here, it was new information. They should have been recording more. The rest of you at this point should be picking up on the details at the end, because we listened to it right at the end of the period, and we started cleaning up. Okay, so record additional new information that you hear.
Lot from people who are trying to engage in censorship, that this isn't a First Amendment issue. Well, the fact that we're talking about it makes it a freaking First Amendment issue.
Randazza is Andrew Anglin's attorney. I reached him in Las Vegas, where he's based.
If you believe in freedom of expression, you have to believe in it for Nazis and Klansmen and pornographers and anybody else you might find to be objectionable.
Randazza stressed to me that he too thinks the memes and the anti-Jewish slurs were awful. Richard Spencer's mom also condemned the trolling. But Randazza says when you put tools in place to restrict speech, it can backfire later.
Mr. Anglin, all that he intended to incite and all that he did incite was people expressing themselves.
People in Whitefish are torn over this case. Their town is dependent on tourism. They don't want any more negative attention. But on the other hand, the trolling got really hateful and personal. The rabbi, Francine Roston, told me that she thinks one of the trollers was the father of someone she knew. And the trollers didn't stop at just the Jewish community. They started going after anyone in town, even if no one was Jewish, and local businesses that had anti-hate signs posted in their windows. Before I left Whitefish, I met Jennifer Roston. She and her young family live in this old farmhouse on the outskirts of town. Her husband inherited it from his grandfather.
I have my curing rack right over here.
She has a soap-making business, and when she heard about the trolling, she decided to put together gift baskets to give to the trolling victims.
And I'm not sure who told the news, but the news was there, and they interviewed me. So I was on the news that night talking about what we were doing, and then the next morning I was on the Daily Stormer.
Andrew Anglin's website. Then came the emails and the posts on Yelp about her business.
I got fake reviews that said my soap was made with the fat of Holocaust victims.
She was scared at first, but then she tried to shrug it off.
They are very misogynistic. They like to use names like whore and slut and bitch.
Reynolds told me people here are sort of resigned to the fact that there may not be any recourse for the trolling victims.
There was nothing anybody could do, and the police told us that.
And she says she and her neighbors are bracing for it all to come back if the lawsuit moves forward. And they'll speak out again, she says, and hold more rallies and protests. Lawyers for Andrew Anglin have filed motions in federal court to dismiss the case, but the judge has yet to rule. Kirk Ziegler, NPR News, Whitefish, Montana.
Okay, so here we go. Here's some discussion questions I want you to think about. Okay, and I also have a video clip that goes into the history of anti-Semitism that I want to have you watch and take some notes as well. So the idea as we're studying tonight is thinking about anti-Semitism as it relates to the Holocaust and contemporary times. Okay? It's real easy to dismiss that, this hatred, this anti-Semitism was something that ended in 1945 and no longer happens. And if you don't practice the religion, it might be an easy assumption that you would make as well. So I want to make sure throughout the whole month that we're talking about this and how it relates to hate groups overall, because the underlying issues we might determine are the same. Okay? The target just switches. Okay, so here's some questions I want you to think about, and then I'm going to give you a few minutes just to share the notes that you took on the audio clip with your partner. You guys can add some things on. Then we're going to go to some of the questions, and then we'll go to the video clip. So what did you learn from the video or audio clip? Okay, so what did you learn? What was new information? You don't have to record these questions. You're not recording the answers in your book. These are just for discussion later, but I want you to be thinking about them. So what did you learn? What's new learning? How are contemporary manifestations of anti-Semitism both different and the same as traditional forms of anti-Semitism that were present before and during the Holocaust? What drives people to hate groups? Discuss freedom of speech as it occurred in here. They address that here. So discuss freedom of speech as it relates to the audio clip, and what are your thoughts overall? What tools are used to spread anti-Semitic images and messages? Are there other groups that you can think of that are targets of prejudice and bias? Some may dismiss words and actions used to target or label a group as, oh, it's no big deal. I hear that all the time. And people just kind of play, oh, it's not a big deal. They don't really mean it. He's my friend. We're really friends. What are the responsibilities of individuals in society when such attitudes go unchecked? And then we're used to thinking of ourselves as helpless in the face of aggressive group hostility and widespread hatred. We are used to saying it's not our responsibility and there's nothing we can do about it. What are the dangers of this social phenomenon? This question, comes from you'll see it from the video clip, but it really gave me pause as I was going through. I was typing up these questions last night because fourth period, I think I mentioned to you, there were a couple students that said, well, there's really nothing you could do because you were killed if you stepped up. So we need to talk about that. Okay? What are the responsibilities of individuals in society, okay, with these groups, how they manifest themselves? All right, so the first thing, I just want you to think about these. We're going to discuss them as a full class. What I initially want you to do with your partner is just to share the information you pulled from the audio clip. Okay, so the audio clip. So with your partner, think, pair, share, just a few minutes and add on to your notes.
The guy was a news
You're just sharing the information that you heard. All right, go ahead and give me your attention. All right, so the discussion, some of the questions that I have relate to not just the audio clip and contemporary anti-Semitism, but the history. And has it changed or is it the same? For you to be able to understand that, I need to give you a little bit of background. And I pulled this from the United States Holocaust Museum. It's a 15-minute video that goes into the history of anti-Semitism. Okay, so we can have that discussion. Is it the same? Is it different? Okay, you guys, I know in social studies, discussed and did propaganda posters, that type of thing. I want you to be thinking of that in terms of the question in particular. Okay. What tools are used to spread anti-Semitic images and messages? What tools? Okay, you've got some background. So we're going to go to these questions after you watch the video clip. So it'll be a 15-minute video clip. Add to your notes. Okay, right underneath the notes, why don't you go ahead and put History of Anti-Semitism video. Keep the questions in mind, okay, that I shared with you in terms of the notes that you're taking. Remember, it's really hard. You might think you'll remember a particular detail, but it's hard to remember a detail once the time, 15 minutes is up, we talk this, and everyone starts talking, if you don't have it written down. Okay, so just in notes, you're not writing complete sentences or paragraphs, just things so you can look back and remember the things that were important or stood out in terms of the video. So, are there any questions that I can answer before I start the video? All right, so here we go. History of anti-Semitism.
full screen it. You gotta click that little button.
Thank you.
In World War II, some 6 million Jews had been murdered by the Nazis and their partners. Indeed, from the very beginning, the Nazi Party wanted to rid Germany, Europe, and the whole world of the influence of the Jews, which they considered to be dangerous, and the Jews themselves. When the Nazis came into power in 1933, they began isolating the Jews, separating them out of society. They passed many laws against them, all of them in order to restrict them in the economy, to restrict them in the social life of Germany. Around the time the war broke out, they intensified their anti-Jewish activities as they got more territory under their control. In the summer of 1941, with the invasion of the Soviet Union, they began using mass and systematic murder against the Jews. This policy of murder eventually came to be known as the Final Solution, and it was carried out and continued to be their policy until the end of World War II. During the Holocaust, the majority of the Jews of Europe were murdered. Thousands of Jewish communities were destroyed. Jewish civilization had been destroyed. Jewish culture, Jewish religion, a Jewish way of life that really would no longer be. Indeed, an entire civilization that existed for some 2,000 years had come to an end.
Anti-Semitism is a concept that was coined in the 19th century, representing hatred of Jews either as individuals, a group, or a concept. But Jews have been blamed throughout history for all humanity's shortfalls, for any natural disaster or any tragedy. Were the attitudes and actions against Jews in Nazi Germany a new phenomenon, or was it part of a continuum of anti-Semitism throughout history?
Throughout history, anti-Semitism has taken on different forms, but it's always affected by the time and place in which it occurs. Different cultures, beliefs, events shape anti-Semitism, but throughout history, there are also salient elements that always repeat themselves. For instance, Jews have been blamed for being in league with the devil. In the Middle Ages, they were blamed for the Black Death and for poisoning wells. In certain places, entire communities were burned to death, even when the Pope came out against those accusations. In blood libels against the Jews that began in the Middle Ages and continue even today, the demonic image of the Jew recurs, and the Jew is accused of using the blood of non-Jewish victims in Jewish religious rituals. Treason and treachery have been associated with the Jews throughout history, so that from the beginnings of Christianity, the Jews were blamed for betraying Jesus to the Romans, an accusation that was only officially retracted by the Catholic Church after the Holocaust. In a trial that took place in 19th century France, Alfred Dreyfus, a Jewish officer in the French army, was accused of espionage and betraying his homeland. Ultimately, he was found innocent, and all those allegations were proven to be lies. During the Weimar Republic, the Jews as a group were accused of being unpatriotic. Even worse, they were accused of stabbing Germany in the back and plotting to bring about her military defeat, even though 100,000 of them served as officers and soldiers in the German army, and 12,000 Jews were killed fighting for their country. In the 20th century, the Jews were accused of being a demonic force that poisoned the world with conflicting ideas such as exploitative capitalism and communism. There are many other examples of accusations that have been made against the Jews based on social, religious, or historical circumstances that repeat themselves. For instance, Jews are always accused of caring only about money. They're accused of conspiracy. And they're always accused of plotting to take over the world.
Throughout history, negative stereotypes were used against Jews. As educators, it's important to discuss the problematic issue of stereotypes. Why do people stereotype, and what is so dangerous about stereotyping? From an educational perspective, it's important to emphasize to our students that these ideas of anti-Semitism are obviously false. It's very important that they don't get the illusion that this is just another legitimate narrative of history.
Anti-Semitism has existed throughout history. If so, what did the Nazis add or change?
Hitler's book, Mein Kampf, is a chief platform for conveying Nazi ideology.
By defending myself against the Jew, I am fighting for the work of the Lord. With satanic joy in his face, the black-haired Jewish youth lurks in wait for the unsuspecting girl whom he defiles with his blood, thus stealing her from her people. With every means, he tries to destroy the racial foundations. For a racially pure people which is conscious of its blood can never be enslaved by the Jew. Culturally, he contaminates art, literature, the theater, makes a mockery of natural feeling, overthrows all concepts of beauty and sublimity, of the noble and the good.
The innovation is that in the core of Nazi ideology lays the idea of racism. This ideology saw the Jews as a demonic force, aiming to poison the world, to take control over the world. The Nazis defined Germany as a super race. They aimed to create a new world under their leadership based on race.
Since human beings were defined by their race, Jews were seen as evil just because of their genetic makeup. That was immutable. Nothing that they could do could change that. Therefore, according to Nazi ideology, the world had to be redeemed from the Jews. Discussing ideology is essential because ideology is a pattern of beliefs, a system of thoughts and actions, a way of organizing your goals and your targets that ultimately leads to action.
My classmates who were my little friends, and we visited each other and played together and did our homework together, what have you, must have picked up new vibrations at home because suddenly they called us dirty Jew, they called us other names, they would not play with us, they would not invite us. Some of their parents would telephone my parents and say, I hope you understand, but if my son plays with your son and his other friends will, etc. They knew what was going on. They made excuses, but it didn't stop.
After discussing Nazi ideology and its roots, we move on to discussing the questions. How did this ideology become accepted by the public? How did this ideology evolve to become the force that led to the murder of 6 million Jews?
In 1934, there was a terrible paper being published. It was called Die Stürmerzeitung. That was a horrible paper. That affected me terribly because it was plastered on all these stores that sold newspapers. And in the morning, going to school, I would see this Stürmerzeitung and people standing and reading them. And what did they list in this Stürmerzeitung? They had people's faces with long noses and saliva running from their mouth and looking at little Gentile children, greedily looking at the money that the children had in their hands, like they wanted to steal the money from these children. And they had terrible stories in there that Jewish doctors trying to inject Gentiles with poisonous medication. They had bankers that would swindle Jews out of their money. And here I was walking to school, and people were actually reading this, and young people, old people of all ages. And by the time I got to school, I couldn't learn.
anti-Semitic discourse became common and legitimate in the media and culture and even in education. A perfect example of this is the book The Poisonous Mushroom, book published in Germany for children, focusing on the corruption, the evilness of Jews. It was not coincidence that they chose the mushroom to depict the Jew. It's very hard to distinguish between a poisonous mushroom and an edible one. It's very hard to distinguish between a Jew and any other human being. It's very hard to control mushrooms. They spread all over the place without control, as with the Jews. A different example is another picture from this book, almost illustrating what we read in Mein Kampf. We can see the Jew trying to tempt, to seduce these two innocent little German kids. Another picture reminds us of the old and ancient roots of anti-Semitism that were passing on from generation to generation. Yet another picture reminds us of the new ideas of Nazi ideology. New ideas that were based on race, on blood, on genetics, on biology. This picture describes the scene familiar to any German kid, because Nazi ideology and racism were ultimately part of the curriculum in every school.
Propaganda presented the Jew as the root of all evil and presented the Aryan as good, pure, and strong. It's important to understand that propaganda used messages that were both overt and covert. The messages were very powerful because they were based on familiar notions. People heard them again and again and again. They stopped questioning them. And the lies ultimately became facts.
The Nazis used different tools to pass on their propaganda. They used the media, they used newspapers, radio, and street demonstrations. The propaganda that was heard everywhere gave the illusion that everybody agreed with it.
Ultimately, anti-Semitism was the driving force behind the Nazi policies as expressed in legislation, in persecution, and in oppression, and the Holocaust could not have happened without it.
One would think that after the Holocaust, anti-Semitism would disappear. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Today, anti-Semitism is a constellation of new ideas and old ideas. The chief idea behind new anti-Semitism today is the demonic image of the State of Israel and Zionism. A study conducted between 2013 and 2014 by the Anti-Defamation League in over 100 countries around the world found that more than 1 in 4 adults, 26% of those surveyed, held anti-Semitic attitudes.
Anti-Semitism is the longest hatred. However, in today's society, there is hatred of other groups as well. This is the opportunity to discuss with our students the concepts of hate groups and scapegoating. What drives people to join these groups? What are the dangers of these social phenomena? We are used to thinking of ourselves as helpless in the face of aggressive group hostility and widespread hatred. We're used to saying, it's not our responsibility, and there's nothing that we can do about it. The story of Billings, Montana is an important and inspiring lesson. In 1993, Ku Klux Klan flyers were distributed. Gravestones were overturned in a Jewish cemetery. Swastikas were painted on the home of a Native American family. African American families were intimidated, and bricks were thrown through the windows of Jewish homes displaying the menorah for the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah. Rather than accept what was happening in their community, people decided to take a stand. Those who were not targets became allies of those who were. Officials made strong statements. The Painters Union painted over the graffiti. Community leaders sponsored human rights activities. The local newspaper printed full-page menorahs for display around the town, and most of the 10,000 people who displayed them were not Jewish. With anti-Semitism prevalent again today, it is important to highlight groups and individuals who act against it.
They began isolating the Jews, separating them out of society, and murdered by the Nazis and their partners. Indeed, from the very beginning, the Nazi Party wanted to rid Germany.
Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to pull up those discussion questions. I think I logged out. again, but what I want you to do is the person to the right, okay, of your table group. Go ahead and stand up. Person to the right. So here's my right. You guys are going opposite? Okay, we'll go this way. Right. So stand up if you're to the right. All right, so with your comp book and your writing utensil, I need you to rotate to someone else. You're going to sit down and discuss what you learned about the video before we go full class. Okay, so move somewhere. Okay, so people, you found your partner, go ahead and start talking. Share your notes and add on.
I said, what do you say? So, isolate.
Looks like we're uneven, right? So that could just solve our problem here. Yeah, which it might be the easiest for you to.
So,
okay.
The majority of the Jewish community.
Adding on to your notes.
They were blamed for money. Accused for being unpatriotic, even though money, Germany propaganda, and backfired, that their plans are backfiring because people are standing up for what they believe in. The Holocaust wouldn't be a thing without propaganda.
That's huge, right? And even in today's time with everything.
Submit our notes to the person.
You're sharing this, and then we're going to go to this.
Oh, okay.
What's something that you would consider anti-Semitic? Like a comment or like a view that maybe other people wouldn't consider anti-Semitic?
Other people wouldn't?
Yeah, so like something that you would find anti-Semitic but other people might not.
I think anything that is used to degrade, isolate, be hostile, anything like that could be viewed as
like 1 billion.
But I don't know if I can think of one that, like, I can think of this example that would be someone would take their I don't know.
Maybe, would it be something religious, like between a Christian and a Jew or a Catholic
Possibly,
and a Jew?
because there definitely was that as well.
Because it's just like baffles me that 26% of our population is people. Like I don't know if like not all of those are like Richard Spencer and stuff, but like I wonder if some of them maybe like they weren't anti-Semitic, but something they said or something they posted.
And it could be, Cameron said that use of propaganda, small, yes, the influence. And then we think of the technology that we have and how quickly people spread things, and they don't verify. They just,
Would it be considered anti-Semitic? Because like, so our president has a Jewish daughter.
Yes.
But he did not celebrate Hanukkah. He didn't have anything about Hanukkah or the Passover or anything. I mean, he did celebrate other religions that were lesser known.
Yeah.
So would you consider that?
No, I wouldn't. Would you?
No. I'm just wondering
if they, I don't think so. All right, you guys, let's go full class. Okay, so Sean and I were talking about a couple pretty interesting ideas, went beyond the time a little bit. Chase, you've got the discussion. We're only going to discuss for a little bit. This will be a common element that we are going to be discussing and studying throughout the entire month, okay, as we're studying the novel. So as we are reading Night by Elie Wiesel, the discussion is not just based on are you understanding the text, but the bigger conceptual ideas that tie to not just his experience, but the life that we live in today. So bigger. So we're going to start the discussion, and then we're going to go to the observation charts in those stations so you can continue to gather information and increase the background knowledge that you have on the time period. And there's lots of different things that I have. So I'll set that up so you know the expectations. So we go back to these questions. Just like any time, you can use these as the foundations for the things that you share with the class. You can build on other people's ideas, or there might be something else that you think of that you just want to discuss. So I'm going to put let's see if we can go for just 8 minutes. Usually we can go a lot longer, but I want to stop so that we can, what's 8 minutes?
8 minutes would be 10:55.
5. Okay, so we'll go to 10:55 and then we'll set up the observation stations. Okay, so who wants to start? And remember, Harrison might say something that you add to your notes or something. Do use a different color so I know that you're still actively participating in the discussion, listening. That use of a different color really helps me. All right, so here we go. Harrison, go ahead and start us.
6 million Jews were killed. That's what I learned from the video.
Okay, so 6 million Jews, were killed, exterminated, during the time of the Holocaust. Okay, Victoria.
So, what I kind of got from the video is I kind of recorded dates, like in 1938, Jews started to be isolated from society. And another thing I wanted to bring up was I was unaware that Jews were kind of blamed for so much throughout history. Like, I thought it was just the Holocaust, and then, not that it was over, I would say, but like there's nothing before the Holocaust that kind of made people hate Jews, but throughout history it kind of seemed like Jews are being blamed for certain things that I don't think they could have control over.
I want to build off, she said, I started recording dates. Okay, and so and 1938 was one that you mentioned, and what did you say? And it should be in your notes, so if it's not, could you please record it?
In 1938, I said Jews started to be isolated from society.
Okay, now, can we tie it to the text that we're reading? Remember, this is a deposition or a testimony. He refers to some dates right at the very beginning, and it's important that we know the timeline. 1938, they begin to be segregated in all these communities. Saxton, how can you tie it to the novel?
It's 30. I thought it was 33 when they.
I was thinking 33 too.
I didn't really hear.
Okay, so just change. 1933. Okay, so now let's tie it to the novel. Okay, so 1933, what time period do you guys remember he mentions right in the very first few pages? Okay, after you begin reading the text, it's after the preface, it's after the foreword. Go ahead, Saxton.
You started to hear talk about the people were getting transported, and like his friend who was leaving, and he was a different kind he came to that town. He wasn't like the rest of them.
Oh, Moshe, I think that's the Beatle.
Yeah.
He was a foreigner, absolutely. What was the particular time that was mentioned?
It was in 1931.
How do you know that? Good. So the date is 1941. Why is it important? 1933, 1941. Why is it important we know in terms of a timeline of history? Why is that significant? Why even worry about the dates? Anthony?
Because it shows, like, you can assume that things have gotten...
Oh, can I stop you right? Remember, he's going to inference right now. He's inferencing, and that's what I'm engaging. Can you inference? Can you take the information that we're learning about the time period and make some inferences? And it's not in the text. You are not going to find Elie Wiesel write, oh, it's important that you know that in 1941, blah, 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 blah. We have to make some inferences. So that's what he's doing. So listen to what he says, and you can record it in your book. Okay, go, Anthony.
So it's like it says that in 1933 is when people started like isolating Jews and stuff. So nearly 10 years later, you can it's probably gotten a lot worse, and there's more, tension, I guess.
Absolutely. It's probably in a decade. Imagine how it's grown, okay, and the tension. But then we go back to the little village that he's in, and how are the people reacting? Okay, so Sean, Hugo, is your hand up? Okay, let him go, and then I'll bounce to you if you have an idea. Go, Sean.
I've just heard things, but there have been things that I've read where it's like Hitler needed a scapegoat, and that's what he used the Jews for. And he didn't like the Jews; he despised them and all. And that's why he started isolating them from society and doing all these things, segregating them. But I've heard things where it's like the reason it got worse over time is because Hitler had to focus on other things like the war aspect and stuff like that, and his generals started taking it farther and farther, and he just didn't stop it because, you know, he told people that these were evil. But I've just heard that it wasn't his initial plan for them to all.
Did you guys pick up on the video when the final solution, that's when the plan came into to manifest it? That's when it was a systematic targeting of people who practice the Jewish religion. Anyone pick up the date? 1941. Good. You should write that down. It's called the final solution. And as you're looking through those World War II texts, look for those important dates and when things started to shift. So 1941, 1933, they begin to get segregated. 1941. Now he just declares, this is what we're doing. It's called the final solution. All right, Hugo, did you have anything to add?
Well, in the novel it says that Germany was defeated in one of the parts, and so the Jews were listening to the radio and they thought that it was over from there, and so they just like went off.
Do you guys remember reading that Germany was defeated, or were they hoping that?
They were in the
this.
Oh, in the
book.
In this.
Yeah, in the book it was saying that the radio was broadcasting that information that Germany was being defeated, and this won't go on long, and you know guns are gonna come to the front lines or come to the villages and relieve all the citizens from the horrible conditions. Like soon, like they just kept saying, soon it will happen, soon it will happen, soon it will happen. But I don't know if that was propaganda from the Germans to kind of make the Jews kind of go off guard.
Possibly, right? Or maybe maybe they were getting a little bit, maybe they were losing in battles that they weren't before. Okay, but that's important. Okay, what else? From the video, any of those questions? Yeah, Caitlin.
So for number 3, what drives people to start hatred?
Yeah.
Well, I think since like people grow up knowing one thing and they're taught like one thing, and whenever people do something different, they don't know how to react, so they start with like hating them.
Change is hard. Yeah. It's scary too. Okay, and parenting is huge, huge. Okay. Doesn't mean that if you grow up in a family that practices certain beliefs or something that you can't step away, but it's very difficult for people to do that. It takes a lot of maturity, and sometimes it means walking away from your family, which is extremely hard. Cameron.
Number 3, what drives people to hate groups? That kind of reminds me how it said the Holocaust wouldn't have happened without propaganda.
Why do you think that's true?
Because it just kind of forced people to believe all of this stuff.
What do you think? Propaganda forced people to believe. What do you think, Chelsea?
Because it was everywhere and they were teaching young children that, and so especially the kids being in school, seeing it at school from the teachers and then also at home from your parents that were also convinced of it, it's really hard to not believe when you're surrounded by it.
Good, nice. So now can we make a parallel to today? We're talking about propaganda and it was everywhere, and can you remember we want to go there and now, both. Okay, Gabe, you haven't had an opportunity?
Yes. What I got from the video is that the propaganda that they use today isn't as effective as back then because there's more people willing to help accuse people of like their houses getting spray painted and stuff. People help them more than they did in World War II and the Holocaust.
Do we know that for sure? Or is that kind of a conjecture right now? Yeah, it's just kind of the beginning of trying to understand the topic overall. Okay, now we're going to stop. Okay, but we'll absolutely come back to this discussion. There's so much to say, and there's not just within one class period, it will all be resolved and we'll have a better understanding. Just the beginning stages. So Preston, if you look up here, this is how we're going to work with the observation chart. So there's 17 tables in here, and I have 17 different stations that will be set up. Over along the counter, I have some material bound with a rubber band if there was more than one, text with it, with a number on it. And then the back wall, I have a piece of butcher paper with the number and the content of that particular station. So each table will have information that's different from everyone else, and you'll have a piece of butcher paper that you're just going to help me set up. Okay, it's going to be right at the top of your paper. So what you will need is let me look at the overview that I have here. So with your table partner, you're going to peruse the informational materials at your station. So Caitlin and Cassidy will be working together. So they're going to be looking over the information. You're going to record 5 to 10 observations in your comp book. Okay, so you need your composition notebook. You're going to label what number station, because you're not going to all of them. We just don't have time. I have 17 of them. So the ones that you end up going to with your partner, you'll record the number and then what's at that station. Basically what's written at the top of the butcher paper. Okay. Underneath it, just your observations. So you're going to flip through the materials and record 5 to 10 observations. Your notes don't need to be exactly like your partner's. Okay. So I might have 2 copies of the text. It might be like 6 different things that you have and you're looking through it, so your notes might be different. You're going to record one of your most interesting or thoughtful, provoking observations on the butcher paper. Okay, so just one. So these 2 are working together. Okay, Cameron's got 5. Harrison has 5. They're going to look over it and they're going to pick the one that they want to record on that butcher paper. And then let's take a look in your night packet and look for the page that is labeled Making Inferences. So it looks like this. So if you move, just go ahead and open someone else's packet, because there's a packet at your table. You can flip to this sheet. This is Making Inferences. Cameron, go ahead and open that one.
Let me try that.
Okay, so on this worksheet, you're going to record what you record on the butcher paper, you and your partner, the one observation, what the text says, what you already know, and then you're going to make an inference. Okay. So at the station, you're going to sit, you're going to peruse materials. Okay, look over all of it. You're recording observations in your comp book. You are deciding with your partner the one observation you want to record on the butcher paper. I'll give you a big marker. Okay. You're going to record it on the butcher paper. Then you're going to go to this worksheet, record the observation, what you already know, and then make an inference. This will occur, if you look at the last one, I'm going to time you for 10 minutes. So you'll be at each station for 10 minutes. I'll give you kind of a warning there's 2 minutes left. At the 2-minute time, I need you to make sure you and your partner record something on the butcher paper and then fill this out. So you have about 8 minutes of kind of flipping through the information and recording observation before you have to worry about the butcher paper and your packet. So what questions can I answer for you guys? Clear? All right. So I am going to need to get the materials out to you in the butcher paper. Now, it might seem easy, but I'm going to show you how I want the butcher paper set up.
I didn't look at it.
All right, so here's this. There we go. Everyone, come back here. Cameron, if you can look back here. So the butcher paper at the top is sticky. Okay. Now, I want you to stick it on the table initially. Someone from your table is going to come back and grab this from me, the supplies. Tape it just at the top, and then I need you to flip it over. And the reason why I want it written or taped like this is because other people are going to be rotating to those stations, and I want your observation, okay, for them to make their own observation and add on to it, okay, and it's going to just kind of stay out of the way. So at the end, we'll have we'll have all this information compiled from all the different people that were able to go to each station. Okay, this will be staying kind of out of the way. You can look over the observation of that person before you also add on. Okay. So that's the butcher paper. We've got the materials over there, and then I have markers. You are also at a different spot. Some of you rotated. So I'm going to have Chase hand out a marker to each 2 of you. You're going to be working with your original table partner. So you're going to end up rotating back so you have your materials. Chase is going to come around and give one marker to each 2. The 2 people at the table, one person's going to come back and get the butcher paper. Okay. So you have to decide with your partner who's going to do what. Come grab the butcher paper. Make sure it doesn't tear, so be careful. Tape it to your desk. The other person's going to come over to the side and get the material with the same number. Okay? And then rotate over here, put the materials down. Everybody good? All right, so go ahead and rotate to your original spot. Chase, here are the markers. Okay, decide once you're back with your partner who's going to get the butcher paper, who's going to come over and get the material. Doesn't matter to me. No, your original partner.
Can I go to the bathroom real quick?
Yeah, quickly. You're going to do 11? Okay. What number are you, Chelsea? What number do you want to grab? What? Stay with your original. Thanks for thinking of that, though. Remember, your material should match the number. Who's working with Chelsea?
Wait.
Kaylin? Okay, and grab your...
Number. We're still waiting on the number.
Yep.
We're still waiting on it. Madison? What number? Number 7? What number?
Number 15.
Burger? Burger 15.
Oh my God.
Okay, it looks like we're close to being done.
You only had enough for like half. I already gave it to Aaron.
How many more do we need then?
So I was able to get all this, all that back row, all that second row. We need 6 more.
6 more markers? Okay.
What number?
We're 13.
Here you go, Chase.
Hey, can I get a marker, please?
Yes, I'll hand you guys a marker.
Can I get a no?
These are expensive.
What I already know.
We have to say what we already.
Okay, looks like we're getting real close to being done. Who's getting your butcher paper? Who's your partner?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Like right here.
Can you help him, Caitlin? Yeah. Get it going. Come on.
Alright.
Flip the butcher paper over. Can I pull you guys out a little bit?
Oh. I'll just tear one out.
Is that your marker there?
Yes, that is.
Number 1. That's an extra? Preston, why are you here?
So I don't have a partner.
How can you solve that problem? Let's go up to the front here. So we're uneven in here?
Yeah, that's why I moved to.
Okay, you're not going to fit there. It's not a good spot. How about right there? Or one of these. Where do you want to go?
I have your journals on the way.
Okay, so you're going to need, why don't you bring one of the chairs and then your comp book. All right, so go ahead and find your seat. Let me just kind of recalibrate everything. Cameron, go ahead and take a seat. Just want to make sure everyone's got the directions right in your head. Okay, here we go. Saxton, ready? Give me just maybe 30 seconds. Okay, so at this point, and I really appreciate you guys helping me get the supplies out. It'll be a lot easier with the other classes. So you have your butcher paper. It looks like everyone's got it folded over. You have a marker to write with. You don't have to worry about the marker for a while. Remember, it's the last 2 minutes that you're at this particular station. You have the text, the set of texts that correlate with the butcher, the number on the butcher paper. Okay. And what you and your partner are doing, you're just looking through. Preston, can you listen, please? You're just looking through the information. Every station is different. Okay. You're making observations based upon the information. It's all related to World War II, okay, and or the Holocaust. Okay. So, observations. Okay. Then the last 2 minutes, when I say, okay, you've got 2 minutes, at that point, you need to make sure that you kind of look over everything, record something on the butcher paper, and then you will go to this. So this is at the very end. What you write on the butcher paper will be what you write down in terms of the observation for that particular station. And if you look here, I anticipated maybe being able to go through 7, okay, out of the 17 that are out. So you're just talking with your partner. I've got the timer. We're going for 10 minutes. Okay, and at 2 minutes, I'll say go ahead. 2-minute warning. You should be writing on the butcher paper. After 10 minutes, I'm going to ask you to get up and rotate with your partner to a different station. So any questions before? Just keep going. Everybody good? So we have one group up here, Preston, because we're odd. So Preston's with this group up here, and he'll just rotate. You'll just stay with the same group. Okay, so you're with the same partner your entire time. All right, go ahead. 10 minutes. Look over the materials.
I'm putting this away. I'm so sorry. Oh, no.
Haley, you should be recording in your comp book. Remember I said that packet is the last thing you go to. So right now, where's your comp book? You know, one of my students from the past, and I kept it because it was so good. Yeah.
They didn't color anything.
Yeah, so these are really important. So remember in your comp book, 5 to 10 observations from. So comp book, 5 observations.
That's my turn.
Remember, you're writing in your comp book first. This is the last 2 minutes.
Each station? Five for each station?
Mm-hmm. And don't forget these two. These are all.
The first batch shouldn't go to for
When is second lunch?
no.
So she said just anytime during second lunch.
Yeah, I think so. 1933.
After this station, we'll have you guys go, because then I can have her partner or something. So just after this rotation, you guys will go.
That's cool.
Now, quite obviously, in 10 minutes, you can't read the entire text. You're kind of perusing, okay, and recording observations, not the entire thing necessarily.
These are what?
Actual papers.
Yeah.
Is that not? Can you imagine? I know that was being published in here.
take something from the book and make an observation, do we do that 5 times separately?
That is your observation.
Okay.
Yeah, so you could write it word for word, like textual evidence, or you could just write down, the observations that you make.
Okay.
You guys are in the diary. Yeah, so a lot of people think Anne Frank's diary is the only one that survived. And there's yeah.
I believe that's a thing. If there's any more land.
Nice job, you guys. You're building up your background information. That's going to help you understand, the content and our study of night much more thoroughly. These were victims.
These were victims?
Yes. So, kind of gives you their...
And then what was this?
Does it give you anything on the back or anything? So we don't... What do you think it might look like? You can record that. And if you're not sure, then just go to another.
Do you write this chart on the poster?
No. So get your comp book. The first thing you're doing is writing 5 observations in your comp book from your particular information. So put like what number is this? What station is this?
7.
Okay, so put station 7, graphic novels, and 5 observations.
Who were mentally retarded, handicapped, or ill.
Do you have to put that in here?
Pardon?
Do you have to put that in here?
Not yet. So you'll set that aside. So do that first.
Wow, they have dog. That's nice. They had like service dogs in the military.
Right, that's an observation.
What we want to put on the top.
Oh, I didn't see the third one.
I wrote down.
Just look to see if she's not in there. So you probably have to do it a different day.
Did we do anything with
Hopkins isn't in there right now. Yeah, so she maybe must have forgot. So we'll have to do it a different day, okay?
We do it this week.
Pardon?
We do it this week. So.
She'll be flexible so she's not in there.
Wait, what did we do?
Okay, so I'm going to stop right now. That's been 8 minutes to just take you to the next step since this is the first station. So within 8 minutes, you had get a little bit familiar with some of the content, but there's too much, okay, within 10 minutes that you're not going to catch everything. So in your comp book, you made note of the particular number of the station and the content. Okay, so for example, Sean's station is number 7, and it's graphic novels. So he puts number 7, graphic novels. Right underneath it, they've recorded 5 observations from that particular station. We're down to 2 minutes now. Okay, so at the 2-minute mark, I want you and your partner to decide what's going on the poster. What's one observation that you can make based upon this particular station that you're going to record on the poster. In addition, give me maybe 5 more seconds, you guys. Okay. In addition, you go to your packet. Okay. And for number 1, you record the observation, your background knowledge, and an inference you can make based upon that. Okay. So you have 2 minutes now to do the poster and get this done. When I say time's up, kind of stack the materials, and I'll ask you and your partner to find another station. All right, so 2 minutes, poster, and packet.
Do you have a coin that we could flip for because we're tied between 2?
No. If you really have to do 2, you can do 2. Where's your pen, your marker?
Right here.
Okay.
Careful now.
Right big, not too big. Other people will be rotating.
I can write it.
Totally up to you guys. You don't have to.
Alright, so...
Down to a minute.
Maybe a little smaller.
In the revolt, 40 of the Nazis by the Nazis.
Okay, get it down. One observation.
Isn't juice allies?
But it still works, you guys. So that you observe this in the text, a fact.
Still with an F at the end.
Okay, should be working on your packet. Pull the butcher paper back up. No, it's okay if you do. You know.
I'd write it because you never think the purple mark is your shirt.
No.
Exactly. You don't want my handwriting
You
on
guys,
there.
this is ridiculous. Someone write it because we need to rotate.
Yes, ma'am. Is it realized with an S or a Z?
With Z. Z. Did you put Z?
No, I just did.
Okay. Okay, so, and then write something. Kind of organize materials. You're going to rotate with the color marker that I gave you. So that will be your color as you record on the posters. That color represents you and your partner. So make sure you take your color marker, your comp book, your packet, your writing utensil. All right, here we go. Everybody up? With your stuff, rotate to another station.
Hold on, I'm almost done.
But your paper should be up there. Rotate where it's easy for Preston to get in and out too. And Preston, you'll need to take your chair with you.
Oh.
There you go.
Where's easy for you to go? In the mark, bro.
Once you're to a new station, go ahead and record the number. Start looking through the materials. Jordan, did you guys get finished? Flip the chart. Okay, good. All right, 10 minutes.
You right.
Okay.
Okay, well, these are like little kid books.
Sorry, yeah, so just you don't have all of it, just look through.
Let me jot that down real quick.
Okay.
Is there any other
Big thighs.
things?
Over here.
New definitions? Canada?
That does not look like one.
Yeah. Like, so he lifted his hand, gave a command.
So who's it supposed to be?
Hitler?
Absolutely. So Dr. Seuss wrote books to make political statements.
He knew how to open doors. Just super weird.
Wait, so are all these like victims or survivors?
Victims.
So not survivors technically.
Right.
So some of them could have.
So like, how'd they get all this stuff?
Cause they're probably like in the files for Germany.
They use these at the Holocaust museums oftentimes, where they'll hand out a card, like when you enter the museum, and then you'll follow the story of
This person.
the person.
Why is it called the SS?
It's an acronym. It's an acronym for. Every year I look it up for someone and then I forget. You might find it in there.
Is that what they're saying they look like? Yeah, this looks like what she was talking about in the video about how they told them what they looked like.
Yeah, look at this compared to this.
Yeah.
So that's an observation. That's good. Lori, these are newspapers during the time period, and that we're publishing this, and people were reading it and just. About halfway through your time. You guys have 5 observations in your comp book?
I have.
Okay, what about these guys? So 5 in your comp book. Make sure you note the number that you're at, and then order.
What number is this?
2.
They didn't strip all their possessions because people still made diaries. Because in the book Night, they stripped all of their possessions.
What do you think when they went to Auschwitz? Do you think he had possessions when he went there? So maybe it depends on the stage. Like when they went to the ghetto, they had some.
Which concentration camp they went to? Maybe because some generals were more.
Well, what do you think of the concentration camp?
It was.
Have you seen any pictures of what that was like?
Yeah.
Just keep that in your mind.
All right.
You can start right now if you're ready. Okay, we're right about the 8-minute mark, so go ahead and consult with your partner what's going on that butcher paper. Preston, they need you in the office.
Oh, I know it's very.
Will you come back, you think?
Yeah.
It's only 10 minutes.
Yeah, my mom.
So I'll put this back
Can I write it
there
this
just
time?
in case you don't.
My mom just brought me the
Oh, so it'll be quick?
Yeah. I could probably get it. Tell me it's right.
Okay, that'll be perfect.
No, it's declared.
All right.
Yep, this piece of paper just.
Okay, you guys on this?
Yeah.
Okay, look at that.
These newspapers kind of.
Okay, about 1 more minute. Record on your worksheet as well.
Delegation from the
that up. Kind of straighten up your station. Remember, you're rotating with your colored marker, your comp book. We're going to go to one more station. Then Tuesday we'll continue. So you'll have a few more to go to, and then we'll have a discussion, okay, in terms of the additional learning, the inferences that you're making. So one more station before we go to lunch. Put your paper up. Okay, and everyone up and rotate.
Let's rotate, dude. Come on, Madison.
Nice job. Find another station, settle in, start looking through the materials.
Can't do it. You go. You guys want to do this one?
Okay, and you should be looking through the materials now.
Why is this shared? What do you think the Jewish are?
Wait, actually?
Oh, what is was Dr. Seuss Jewish or an anti-Semite?
Rotate the next
He was
station.
anti-Semite.
Like Walt Disney?
Think, yeah, just think and just make an observation. Right there. Why don't you ask them if you could switch real quickly? Sean, they've been to those two. So can you guys switch real quick? Thank you. Was coined in 1879 in Germany.
German officers tried killing their own military leader. Oh.
And I didn't know they like actually visited camps and that stuff. So I think I'm gonna put that down for my thing.
There was one camp that was a propaganda camp, so that Hitler would have world leaders visit. It's called Theresienstadt, and it was all propaganda. So it made it look at how great they're being taken care of when.
Yeah, because in the newspaper it was one camp. I think it was called Dimax or something, and it said that in the log it said that I think the not prime minister, but one of the leaders of Austria would visit there frequently, and to that camp, and it wasn't a propaganda camp, so I just didn't know that they were visiting non-propaganda camps as well.
That's what happened. Did you not pay attention?
That's not what happened. They would go in the room and then they would put it through the shower head.
Yeah, they did.
Did they do that?
Yeah.
They did.
So
That's not in the.
So think about this. Think about this. Why would they arrive at camp and then they would tell them you're going to shower? You're going to the shower. So they all
To get rid of, so you don't have lice.
And they had no idea what was absolutely. So they all walked in like it was nothing because they thought the big shower. They hadn't showered in a long time, and then it wasn't water that came out. It was gas.
Were they allowed to do
So it says that it showed people that were it shows people that were from different places. Would I say different places in Germany, or where was Germany in Europe? Central Europe?
You could say countries located right outside.
Okay. From all countries located right outside.
Nazis? Wasn't Anne Frank a Jew? Why is
She
like,
did
so
survive. Yes, there's a station over there that has a bunch of different diaries because a lot of people think it was her diary's the only one that survived because she became so famous. So some people say it was the primary source. Her dad put it all together, but there were other diaries that survived.
Are we going to read it in class?
Diary of Anne Frank, that's up in the library, so you can check it out. This is the only text that we're going to read together as a class, though.
Even before World War II.
I would just keep
Okay, we have 2 minutes before lunch. Make an observation on the butcher paper for me. Put the number on top of the stack of supplies with the rubber band. We'll keep the butcher paper on the tables, but the supplies we'll put over here along the side. Good, so let's put the source up here. Excellent. And pen. Perfect.